Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is episode 148 of Childcare Rockstar Radio, featuring a Lunch and Learn episode with myself and Coach Ben Poswalk. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is a short and sweet episode where Coach Ben and I are going to interactively answer a question, our first question from one of you, our listeners. We are so excited to have added an interactive element to this podcast. You'll probably recall me announcing that a few episodes ago. And we got our first listener call-in question from Miss Tomika Roberston of a Giants Preschool and a Giants Early Learning Center. And Tomika's question is regarding how to get started with budgeting as she transitions from her home-based preschool to her first brick and mortar center. And I am so thrilled for you, Tomika, to make this huge leap in your business of entrepreneurship and education. And so congratulations to you. And we are going to take a brief but mighty deep dive into your question here in just a few minutes. Before we do that, I want to thank today's sponsor of the show, which is Kangaroo Time. And Kangaroo Time wants you to know that they empower deeper connections and insights, both within and across your business. With a more holistic childcare management system, you'll have the visibility necessary to make more informed decisions that will increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your business. From classroom automation to robust parent engagement and more, Kangaroo Time partners with you on the road to success. And now you can focus on what matters most, the children in your care. To learn more about Kangaroo Time, visit kangarootime.com. And definitely go check them out. They are dear friends of the podcast and of something that I want to tell you about, which is another big, exciting announcement, which is our Childcare Success Summit annual conference taking place this October 12th through the 14th. Back to Orlando we go, to the beautiful Rose and Shingle Creek Resort, golf and spa. And we're so excited because right now, if you're listening to this episode in real time, our super early bird tickets are on sale. And you're definitely going to want to go get yourself a buy one, get one deal, which is a very limited deal that we offer early in the ticket selling season. We are 6 months ahead of the actual show, and you can get your tickets now at childcaresuccesssummit.com. And you'll definitely want to go there, watch video of last year's show, watch what people are saying, get the vibe, get the experience from attendees, learn more about our speakers that we're going to be having, and so much more at childcaresuccesssummit.com, and get your BOGO. It is the lowest ticket price that we're ever going to offer this year. And if you do the math and you divide it by 2, because you get a free guest ticket, it is down and dirty cheap. We actually lose money on this ticket because we are spending so much more on food and beverage and experiences and speakers and the hotel to bring this all to you. So get in while the getting's good at childcaresuccesssummit.com before the deadline. Tomika Robertson is featured on today's Lunch and Learn, Ask a Question, and get advice live from Kris and the coaches here on the podcast. And as mentioned, her question is about how to prepare a budget for her new business and how to take in all the things into consideration, like parents' nights out and bonuses and grad events, and how do you budget for that stuff? So we are very excited to come on in and help Tomika with this question. And so Ben and I are going to answer her question here on today's show here in just a minute. And the only other thing I wanted to tell you is that as a listener who has actually called in and taken the time to ask a question on our Ask a Question feature at childcaresuccess.com, .com/podcast, she's going to get a juicy prize. And her prize is the entire Kris Murray library of 7 books, 2 of which you can see behind me here if you're watching this on YouTube. And not only that, a 3-pack of wine from empathywines.com. So she can read and sip. It's our read and sip package. You guys might have heard of our sip and shop packages, and we might do that next time. But this is a full Kris Murray library with 7 books, amazing content, and a 3-pack of empathy wines being shipped out to you right now, Tomika Roberston, for being our first listener call-in question. And we are so thrilled to play your question and answer it right here. So if you would like to participate and get a prize, you may go to childcaresuccess.com/podcast. And when you go there, you'll see a little ask a question or leave a voicemail, little black button on the side of the page on your browser or your phone. And you just click that and you hit the microphone and ask away. And then those questions come right in to myself and Robin, my assistant, and we will get them queued up and play your question. So get on that. And that is your homework item out of today's podcast episode. All right, let's dive in. Let's hear Tomika's question. Let's get it answered and give her some great advice and coaching. And thanks for tuning in to today's Lunch and Learn, everybody. Take what you learn, apply it to your business, and let's go have an amazing business and the best life ever. All right, talk to you soon. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to welcome you in for a special Lunch and Learn episode. And I've got a friend with me this time, Coach Ben Poswalk from Crested Butte, Colorado, who's on my team. Ben, how you doing?
Hello, everybody. Great to be here, Kris. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. And we have a special treat queued up on the podcast today because it is our very first listener question. We got a question from our amazing audience of childcare leaders, and we can't wait to play it for you. And then Coach Ben is going to help me answer the question. So without any further ado, we're going to hear from our friend Tomika and listen in, everybody, to her question.
Hey, Kris. This is Tomika Robertson of a Giants Preschool and a Giants Early Learning Center. And my question is about budgeting. Whenever we talk finances in the academy, it's always about your P&L and your percentages and all of that good stuff. I need to know how to budget to prepare for all of these things that we are doing, such as budgeting for parent night out and bonuses and graduation events and all of that kind of stuff. Specifically because I am growing from a in-home childcare program that I operated for 10 years, which is going to continue to open, but I'm opening my first commercial location, and this will be my second location. Bigger scale. And so I'm really nervously worried about budgeting for all of the expenses that come with running a child care center. All right. Thank you. I look forward to your response. Thanks.
Okay, so this question is about budgeting, and as many of our members struggle with, and our folks in our audience, whether or not it's struggling, but just putting processes in place for the money management side of your business. So I love this question, Ben, because I love how Tomika is grabbing the bull by the horns and knowing that as she expands her school from home to center, that she knows that she needs to really focus on creating a budget from scratch and diving into best money practices. So you are one of our coaches that's really known for budgeting and helping folks with their money side. So let's talk about how to get started with a budget.
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I learned when I became a member myself in the academy was your quote of what gets measured improves. And, so many people operate from a place of fear with money and numbers and getting this overwhelming in their heads so quickly, where start simple. Really, and that's one of the biggest things that we teach in the academy is, let's just break it down into some buckets. And so obviously income is your number one. That's all the money you get in is from your tuition. But then you've got to start measuring your expenses. And so obviously the biggest one right now, and especially today, is your payroll. But then you have your building costs, you have your administrative costs, everything it costs for you to actually run the business from the management side, and your program costs. And then hopefully the goal is to have a little left over as far as that profit goes. So, anywhere from 10 to 20% is kind of the optimal number right now. But really thinking proactively and just getting started. I know I operated from that place of fear and avoided my numbers to start. But then once I actually started looking into it, it became easier the more I made it a practice, and just make it a habit. And having somebody to help you on a regular basis is really what made a huge difference for me. I had an office manager that would regularly put the information in, reconcile the books, and then give me the data. So I didn't have to do all the legwork, because I know we're busy in this business. So really having some support there. But specifically what she was asking for is like how to budget for parent night out, bonuses,
Right.
and events. And in the beginning, I didn't have much money. We only had 27 kids to start. And so I'm not gonna lie, I was cheap. And the biggest thing I did is I went to the talent at my fingertips. There's so many opportunities to ask parents for help, local businesses, community events, and even your staff, to really find a way to make it just creative and inexpensive, especially for those parent events or, the graduation events. I mean, besides buying the diplomas and the cap and gowns, have a potluck. Use Sign Up Genius and have them, I'm going to bring the napkins. I'm going to bring the hot dogs. I'm going to bring the mac and cheese, and let the parents do the legwork for you instead of having to spend $5, $6, $1,000 on trying to create an event. So that was one of the things I learned.
Love that, Ben. And just some couple examples there. So how to do it on the cheap and have it still be an amazing experience for parents. What we used to experience is Parents' Night Out was a charge of around $5 a child, but it was still a benefit for parents because they got to go out and not pay a sitter. And even if you charge $10 a child, because you're bringing in pizza and you have to pay your staff. So I think looking at, how could I potentially do a parent night out for no money or very little money and get creative with it to start. And that's your point. And then another thing is we used to have a picnic every summer where our preschool would do the burgers at the park, and all the parents would bring the sides. So to your point, having everybody sign up, and that can be where you just have to spend for the burgers and the hot dogs. And it can be very, very little money. So Tomika, I think looking creatively to start and budgeting a very small amount for those things, or potentially even just make it a wash, figuring out a way with your team to creatively make it so that you don't make or lose money. It's just a wash. But I do think doing those events is huge for parent relationships. So I love, Ben, that she's thinking about all the right things here. She's thinking about how can I reward and love on my parents, and how much should I spend for those things. So let's talk about bonuses, because teacher bonuses, benefits, and the whole compensation picture, we do give benchmarks in the academy on what they should be spending on payroll all in and what they should be spending on these other categories that you just walked through earlier. So with regard to payroll and overall wage compensation, my guidance would be look at what you need to pay to be well priced in your market, to well compensate, and do things that also can have no cost, like some special paid time off opportunities, like having your birthday off potentially for staff, or other small perks and bonuses, or gift cards, or manicures or spa days, or things that you can do. They do have a small cost, but the bang for the buck that you're going to get from those things can be a lot bigger than a huge dollar bonus. So I think, again, the same technique strategy applies to this: is be creative on the money side of your business with regard to labors and wages and perks, so that at the beginning you're not spending a ton on your payroll and all the associated perks, et cetera, et cetera. So any creative ideas or things around how to save money on payroll, or just how to guide her in her payroll budgeting?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in the sense that all too often people don't remember what you give them. They remember how you make them feel. And so if you've got a direct deposit bonus of $100, $500, even $1,000, if it gets deposited in their checking account, they might notice it for a minute, like, wow, that's great. And then they kind of move on, but it doesn't elicit a feeling. And so
Yeah.
these company events where they really get to bond and build relationships, because like you say, we're in the trust business, and trust comes from relationships. And that's not only from our families and our students, but also from our team. And so getting creative, I think Steve's idea of doing, he did a whole splatter dash where, they're throwing the powdered paint on each other and just having fun with each other. And Donna's like Hungry Hippos game at a staff event. It's those little silly things, but it's like,
Yeah.
I was just crazy and outside the box. And I felt special because I was a part of it. So in the beginning, when you are starting up, yeah, it's going to be hard to offer health insurance. It's going to be hard to offer, some of these bigger bonuses, but you still can build a connection with your team. You still can offer value. And I think going to like the languages of appreciation, where sometimes a simple thank you note, or just having a wall with like the tree where you put sticky notes and they all write something nice about each other, where everybody can see, the families can see, it makes them feel something. When they feel something, they feel valued. So you don't have to get stuck in that box of a bonus and it's going to cost X amount of dollars. In the beginning, think creatively of how you can just show appreciation. Sure, randomly do donuts on a Friday where it might cost you $20, but they're like, wow, she thought of me, versus, I've got to do $100 every quarter for every staff member. And that's going to cost me X amount of dollars. You're going to put yourself in overwhelm.
Yeah.
It will come. But initially, have fun with it. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I love that. Another idea is to just have getting everybody business cards on your team to make them feel professional, and because they are professionals, and then putting them on a wall of, and I actually got this idea from Beth Davis, who was just on the podcast, putting them in a spot in the lobby where, as they continue to perform, like, so I think she does, if you have no call outs and no lates in a particular month, and maybe there's one or two other things that she measures, and she basically, whoever's left at the end of the month for the behaviors that you're trying to support or seek, you keep those cards up there. And every time, if people call out or they're late or whatever, their name comes off the wall. But the people that are left might get $50 in fun cash. They might get gift cards. They might get a little party. They might get some kind of perk. They might get a mani-pedi. But that's another way to shift your bonuses to make them more performance-based and show the rest of the team that they kind of missed out because they didn't behave in a way to get the bonus. But then you're loving on people for showing up the way that you want people to show up. So that's a very small amount of money with a huge impact. So wherever you can find those things, Tomika, and as you continue to grow and expand, you'll continue to find your jam on this. One final thing I want to talk about then is just the logistics of creating a budget. So what tools do most people use? Are they using QuickBooks? What do you find to be some of the easiest tools to get started with in terms of software, technology, or other practices each and every month to logistically make it happen?
I mean, honestly, I think 95% of our members are all using QuickBooks Online, especially in this day and age where you have to have information right away. To have it on your phone and have an app and have it accessible just gives you peace of mind as a business owner, especially on the weekend if you're thinking about something or need something or need to access anything. I love being able to work remotely and not always being tied to the business. So being able to, grab my laptop and work from wherever. But start simple. I mean, honestly, and this is what I coach a lot of the clients on. I mean, I can walk them through and spend 20, 30 minutes to do it. But the beauty of QuickBooks Online, if you've been in business for more than a year, it can auto-generate a budget for you based on last year's information. And then all you need to do is kind of account for inflation. Now, I know inflation is a little bit different than the 3%
Right.
for the past decade or so, but still, even if it's 8, 9, 10%, you can account for it. And so honestly, YouTube, how to create a budget in QuickBooks Online. It'll take you like 10 minutes. And honestly, QuickBooks will auto feed all the data and then just go in and you can just kind of adjust your numbers based on it, inflation and what you know. Because honestly, your lease is probably going to be the same every month unless you have some weird situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are automatic and consistent in your budget from month to month. And then when I use my budget, I highly recommend doing a budget versus actual by percentage. Because the idea is, obviously, your rent is, let's just say, $4,000 a month. That should be at 100% every time you pay that. But things like your payroll might fluctuate, where you might have 31 days versus February, where it's 28 days.
Yeah.
So it might be a little bit less in February and a little bit more in March. But if it's at 150% for some reason, or it's 75%, that's an anomaly. And that's when I stop and ask myself, hey, what happened that month? What's different? And obviously, if it's a zero, did we forget to pay the electric bill? If it's like 200%, oh yeah, it was the insurance payment. So this is why. And then really, you need to just be able to explain the anomalies in your budget when it's not at 100% or close to. And that's really how I learned to track my business and understand any of those fluctuations. And as long as you can explain it, you're doing well.
Love that. Yeah. Each quarter, every 3 months, you're going to have 1 month that has 3 payrolls in it, most likely, because there's 13 weeks in a quarter. So just having awareness, Tomika, that you look at the calendar, and also you can see, depending on how often you pay and when you pay, where are your payrolls falling? And so there's going to be a couple months that are heavier. And so budgeting for those so you don't have a gotcha moment is also just a really good pro tip. So I wanted to pass that along. Ben, any other tips for Tomika? I think this is a great question. And I know a lot of our listeners don't have budgets yet, or they're struggling to get started. So I love this.
No, I think, like I said, the biggest thing is just make a step. If you don't know, it's only one Google click away. You can always find out information from the web. Get support, get somebody else to get a second set of eyes looking at your numbers. Because obviously, once you kind of get that tunnel vision, because you've looked at it for so long, regularly get your P&L reports, say the 15th of the month for the previous month, and just make sure and make it a habit. Schedule it, especially if it's not something you love. So make the habit of actually looking at your numbers to ensure your business is going in the right direction. And I think you're going to be a lot more successful.
Perfect. And also utilize your pod, Tomika, and your coach so that you can get your pod mates to help you, and they can share examples of how they've done their profit and loss statements and their QuickBooks and budgeting, or whatever tool they use if it's not QuickBooks. And so you have 300 members at your fingertips and 8 coaches to help you with this. So with that, hopefully we've given some really good tips. And I want to shout out Tomika for being our first caller to leave a message for our podcast. So it's so much fun. And I definitely want to get more voices on the podcast. So I hope to hear from you soon here, and leave us a question, and maybe you'll win a prize like Tomika did. Thanks, Ben, for being here.
Well, thank you, Kris. It's a pleasure. By all means, if anybody needs any support, we're here for you.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Coach Ben. Really appreciate your knowledge and expertise on this one. And we will talk to everybody next time. Take care and God bless. I hope you liked this episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please share it with someone you know and help spread the word to your friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, learn more about how to grow your business and make more income with our brand new free quiz, the What's My Number One Income Killer quiz, exclusively for preschool and childcare owners. Take the quiz today at childcarequiz.com to discover what your number one income killer is and how to solve it. Take care and God bless.